द लिटरेरी सर्कल लंदन में आपका खैर मकदम और स्वागत है। वेलकम।
हुमा के साथ इस प्रोग्राम में आपकी मुलाकात बहुत सारे ऐसे लोगों से हुई है जो अपने शोबों में बड़ा नाम कर चुके हैं, बड़ा काम कर चुके हैं।
Zarmeen Ansari, the joy of Urdu. What inspired you to start? And how did your background influence?
How much time do you have?
I have all of this.
I'll try to make it quick. We've described this in great detail on our YouTube channel, Joy of Urdu Ka, but I'll give you a little quick summary. I think the catalyst was my son when he was about 5 or 6 years old, and we were living in Moscow. And he came back home from his international school and he said, "Don't talk to me in this language," which a lot of third culture kids do if you're code switching at home and not speaking in the mother tongue exclusively, which of course we were. We were not aware that we code switched back home in Pakistan, but our third culture kid who's not growing up in Pakistan, but he's growing up abroad, will then revert to the language of the school, which will be English. And that was a wake-up call for me. And so I asked my friend, and wahan se kahani shuru hoti hai. That's where the story starts. I was about 15 when I got a scholarship to go to the United World Colleges in Canada. And in my first year, my advisor said, IB, International Baccalaureate, is very tough. And unlike, the 4 subjects you're going to do, we have, about 8, 9 subjects that you're going to do. So please write off your native language untaught in the first year so you have less subjects to study. So, Urdu. And so I was a scholarship student, so I said, okay, what's the syllabus? So he said, okay, they've sent this to us from Ottawa, from the IB office, and now please understand this will give away, this will age me immediately, but that's okay. This is before the internet, okay? So this is before the internet, before WhatsApp, before anything, right? You're talking to Gen X here. Okay, and so he said, look, here's the syllabus, and he said, Manto. And you know what my answer was? What's a Manto? That was my answer. And of course, now you have Where Manto, which I love. We have, the movie with Nandita Das's movie, and there's all this, growing. And I hope that the organization, Joy of Urdu, has a little bit of part to play in how we are more aware of things like this. But back then, I had no way of studying this. So my next question was, I assumed I'm going to fail. So my next question was, what happens if I fail? Will I get deported? Will I lose my scholarship? So he said, no, you just have to do an extra exam next year. So I had nothing to lose. I said, okay, ask them to send a dictionary from Ottawa, because how else am I going to study? And the idea of Urdu as this really boring subject, and this, that derogatory term, Urdu medium, was something that I later explored with Dr. Ali Asani at Harvard when I was studying at MIT, because I'm an architect, actually, with a master's in history, theory, and criticism. So I wrote a paper on this, actually, on the socio-economic implications of language in the subcontinent. So this was the question that kept, that stayed in my mind, because there were 4 things that happened. I used the dictionary and I said, how do I study this literature that I've never studied? So I'm going to use the tools of literary analysis that were given to me by my amazing English and literature teacher. And wow, this is really amazing. So the second thing that happened is that I really enjoyed it. The third thing that had happened is that I got a 7, which is the highest grade in IB. The fourth thing that happened is that I was really surprised at how much I was enjoying it. And the final thing about which I wrote this paper was that I questioned my surprise. Why was I surprised that I was going to enjoy it? So what I'm trying to say is that Joy of Urdu has been a long time coming. Then I, proceeded. I went back home. I wanted to study Islamic architecture. I wanted to study at the National College of Arts in Lahore, where we're sitting right now. And I spoke with one of my friends who was from Ismail Chughai's family, very literary family, and we were doing a project. People were trying to keep, we had architecture students work all night. And so there's a group project which we have to submit first thing in the morning we're working through the night in the studio. So somebody is playing the guitar, somebody is telling a story, somebody is telling jokes, somebody is singing. So this friend of ours, he said, okay, I'm going to recite a verse by Faiz Ahmed Faiz. We're like, okay, whatever. So he recited, and I'm going to maybe put the translation in English for your viewers, but it's beautiful, and I think it explains my journey, because I did not understand a word of it, which is Na gabao naab ke neem kash dil reza reza gaba deta jo bache hai sang samet tane daag dar. So I went, and I said, that has a beautiful cadence, but I have no idea what you said. So can you please explain that? So that's where I started from, and so this stayed in my mind throughout. Then I wrote this paper, I went on to do my master's, I wrote the paper, but what really was a catalyst was my child coming home and saying, don't talk to me this language. And then I proceeded to go and ask this friend of mine, look, what did you read when you were a kid growing up? The same friend who read Taimur Mumtaz, who designed a beautiful logo based on the principles of Islamic architecture. It's all the proportions are exactly based on the system of rotating squares. Even our logo is well thought out. So we've put, everything is very meticulously done. If there's a logo, it's not just a design. There's a whole concept behind it. So that's really where it started from, to find something for my child, which is bilingual. That child is now 18, so it's taken a long time. But we finally published our book, which we got an award for.
Zarmeeni Ansari, Joy of Urdu, it's a joy to have you with. My first question to you is, what's inspired you to start Joy of Urdu, and how has your background influenced?
That's a great question, and although it has a very long answer, I will just concentrate on the catalyst, which was my son. He came back home one day from school and he said, don't talk to me in this language, when he was about 5 or 6 years old, and we lived in Moscow. It is a personal story as well. So it was something that was in my mind throughout, when I was a scholarship student at the United World College in Canada, when I was an architecture student, I was a student at MIT and Harvard. I'm an architect, and I was doing a master's in history, theory and criticism, and I wrote a paper about language. So that story, if anybody's interested, is on our YouTube channel. I think Uma is going to link that. I think most people will identify with me as a mother, because none of these experiences were the catalyst. My son was, and I just wanted to create content through which I could teach him.
I know the feeling. I think it's a problem with a lot of people. Can you share some of the challenges that you faced when you were trying to promote Urdu language?
I had a lot of support, I have to say, and I did have people who discouraged me and said, oh, this is so stupid, like, why are you wasting your time? You're an architect, you have a master's from MIT, like, why don't you work, you're a cultural tourism consultant, why would you give that up and do something like this? And my answer to that was to ignore them and avoid them. Because I just stayed, I avoided the naysayers, and I just stayed with the people who encouraged me. But my challenge, I think, was resources, time and resources. A lot of things need money. You need somebody so I was the T-boy, I was the photocopier, I was everything, because you can either run around for funding or you can do the work. If I had the luxury of living in one country, maybe I could have slowly gotten those resources, but I had a choice. We started this in Moscow, then we moved to Paris, then I was in Dubai, then I live in Portugal now, where I have to sit for an exam and study Portuguese for my A1, A2 Portuguese exam. I have a limited amount of time, so I can either do the work or I can go looking for funding. So we just decided that we're going to self-fund this, and so we just did everything. Everybody who worked on it pro bono, and the rest of the stuff I just paid out of pocket. I think that has been money and time, as in resources, has been the biggest challenge, and why some of our work, which is great, like our book which just won an award, It's taken a long time because we're all volunteers, all of us.
We're talking about a long time. How has the Joy of Urdu evolved since its inception in 2013? And what are some of the milestones that you're proud of? You just mentioned the book. Are there others?
Yes. So I think on the 10th anniversary of running a volunteer organization, we launched a bilingual publishing house. The book Three Tales from Gulistane-e-Saadi Ki Teen Kahaniyan, is a bilingual book. And it cost an arm and a leg. We heavily subsidized it because we wanted to show that it can be done. I think our efforts were recognized, and we recently, a few days ago, won an ADA award for this book. That's a huge, so the 10-year anniversary, launching of the book was a milestone, winning an award was a milestone. Having one of the most popular online sessions with Dr. Arfa Saida Zehra, which is called Arfa Saida or Zarmina Ansari Ki Himakate.
Yes, I've seen that. It's so funny.
Thank you.
So
It is funny.
I love that.
Thank you. So these have been some of the, the milestones that we've had. There have been many other small ones. I think these are the big ones.
What role do you think bilingual education plays in preserving culture, especially for language and culture?
So it's not just the language, which is, as Dr. Arfa says, is a receptacle of culture, of tehzeeb. Language is intricately and inextricably connected with culture. When you lose a language, you lose a culture. It's not just one of those things you say, but there are certain words, there are certain proverbs which connect you with a certain kind of thinking. And if you lose those concepts, those philosophical, those social connecting, the community concepts. But it's also the script. And sociolinguists, because we have many advisors on our board, sociolinguists have talked about how script is so important when people talk about, oh, you can just Romanize it like the Turkish people did. Well, now they're realizing that was a terrible idea. And it has been studied and it has been proven that was a bad idea. That you should not Romanize it and that you must retain the script, because the script is inextricably connected with culture.
Absolutely. I think the biggest problem we have in the West in particular, because I live in London, is engaging the younger generations. How do you, through the Joy of Urdu, engage the younger generations and encourage them to connect with you?
So this is the whole idea behind Joy of Urdu. It's a bilingual organization. And a lot of people, because what happened with me was that I would go somewhere and there would be all these people and they would, if you asked a question and you felt very stupid. So it's not like there aren't any Urdu organizations. There are, a dime a dozen. There are, you have a gazillion Urdu organizations. But Joy of Urdu was bilingual. We used a weird concept. We used English to teach Urdu. For people like me who didn't study it, I need you to explain a certain word in English to me, because I don't understand this word and I feel stupid asking. And we wanted a place where we could introduce, not teach Urdu. There are lots of schools. We wanted to introduce the joy of Urdu, to make Urdu accessible, and that's, I think, what the young people loved about Joy of Urdu, and that's how they came to a platform.
You see, English made it more inclusive for them.
Exactly. And they had somebody like me with whom they could identify, somebody who was unafraid to say, I have no clue what you're saying. Please explain it to me.
What impact do you hope Joy of Urdu will have on the global perception and appreciation of Urdu language and culture?
If I may be so bold to say, I think if it's not only wishful thinking, I think we're already having a lot of, after 10 years or now 11 years of running Joy of Urdu, I think we have had and continue to have, and hopefully will continue to have an impact, because we receive countless videos from all over the world. We have chapters in almost every continent, or ones that are, and they, in all of these countries, we have young people who join in these reading group chapters. We have some older people who are the discussion leaders, but our audience and our target audience is primarily young people. And then we receive all these videos from them telling us how our content has helped them discover or rediscover Urdu. So I hope that we've already had some impact and we will continue to have it.
Can you tell us about any upcoming projects or initiatives that Joy will be planning?
So we have a London chapter, and because we're a volunteer-run organization, like I said, with limited resources, and when our whenever we have a chapter that's opening up, it takes a lot of time from the core team because we have to work with them. We have a curated book list that we that we refer to. We have certain protocols we've set up, etc. So what we do is that it takes up a lot of our time, and we were just concentrating on our book, this book. So now we'll go back to resuming some of the chapters, like the London and also other places in England that have requested us, even Ireland, where they have requested us to start a chapter. Places in Canada, North America, in Germany, and so we will resume our chapters or restart new chapters, and also we've started working on our new publications.
How do you see the future of Urdu language literature? And what steps can be taken to ensure that it continues?
I think Urdu should sing that song, "My future so bright, I gotta wear shades." I think there's been an amazing resurgence of Urdu, and Joy of Urdu is one of those organizations that have, I hope, made it accessible, made people realize that there is joy, and it's fun. It's not boring. We're making it accessible. It was boring for us because we didn't understand what was going on, so we used English. We made that interesting, and there is a huge interest in the younger generation. People, not from my generation, but younger, who have just rediscovered it.
Are these people in Pakistan, India, or are you talking about globally?
Globally, there are third generation kids. There are a lot of universities, professors who are Urdu pedagogy experts or Urdu professors who are on our advisory board, and they talk about how there's this resurgence, and interestingly enough, not just by third, fourth generation Indian Pakistanis, but also others who are discovering this as a very interesting language to learn, just like they would learn any other, like French or
In England, we had Ralph Russell, David Matthews, and they spoke it better than many local people who are. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start a similar business?
Join us. We've done the hard work. You don't have to suffer. We've done 11 years, long years of coming up with SOPs. By all means, start other institutions, but I think collaboration and working on foundations already laid by people is the smart and logical way to go, because I wish there was a Joy of Urdu that I had, that I could have joined, because we've learned so much, we've made so many mistakes. They don't have to make those mistakes. They can just ride the wave, join us.
So what can individuals and communities do to support the mission?
First of all, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook Threads, X, Twitter, YouTube, Joy of Urdu. Write to us at joyofurdu@gmail.com. Share all the videos we have to people who would find them useful. Okay, that's the number one thing you can do. Follow us and share that with people who would find it useful. And then join our volunteer teams. We have people in our finance and strategy. We have people who are helping us with our architecture and design. There are people who are graphic design. We have sociolinguists. We have historians. You name it. We have people from every field. We are right now at Fairs Festival, and there was Atul Tiwari was doing a presentation on Shyam Benegal, and he spoke about Mandi. And interestingly enough, Joy of Urdu did this series with Dr. Arfa Sayyida Zehra, who's our chief patron and also the person with whom we did this book. We used to do a program called Dr. Arfa Sayyida Zarmeena Ansari Ki Himaaqatein, where I would try to read very badly, and then she would correct my pronunciation, my reading, and then explain difficult words. or challenging words. And this started in COVID and continued for years. And we've got hundreds of other videos as well on our pages. And what happened is that we read Ghulam Abbas's short story called Anand, which was the inspiration for Shyam Benegal's movie starring Shabana Azmi and Smita Patil and all of these people, Mandi. And then we have a thing called the Plus series. We are inspired by Urdu literature and do these programs that are not necessarily about Urdu literature, but it's inspired by it. So we had a program on film. Then we had a program with MIT professor, retired Atino Petruccioli, about urban design and typology, about how in Anandi the center of the city keeps changing. So we had the Plus series talked about architecture, but it was inspired by Urdu literature. So there's lots of synergies, and there's lots of stuff that's out there. There's interest for everyone of every kind of profession. So whatever background you have, you can help us. So please join us. Join our country chapters, join our city chapters, write to us. We're always looking for people who are passionate, who are dedicated, who will work with us to promote the joy of Urdu.
Finally, I'd like you to give a message to those parents who are struggling to teach their children Urdu.
So make it fun. If you don't have an Urdu book, take an English book, translate it in Urdu, and show those toddlers those pictures. You do not need, because they can't really read English either, so it doesn't matter. They're just listening to the sounds. Even if they don't know it perfectly, those sounds will somewhere go at the back and some memory will be there. And then they will remember it. And if you love it and you are excited about it, they will imbibe that excitement.
Ramini Ansari, thank you so much for talking to us about the joy of Urdu. Thank you.
It's lovely talking to you.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad I got that. So मेरी जो उर्दू को सर्विस है वो है अपने अंग्रेज बेटी को।
मैं कहती हूँ you are my
तलफ़्फ़ुज़ अगर आप सुने and she does
you are my inspiration.
प्रॉब्लम
हमने आपको इंटरव्यू कर दिया.